Your kidneys are dying quietly right now, and you would never feel a single warning sign. Harvard doctors confirm you can lose 90% of kidney function without ever feeling pain. That sounds impossible, yet it happens inside millions of people who feel completely fine today. The reason is brutally simple. Your kidneys contain no nerves built to signal early damage. By the time discomfort finally arrives, entire filtration units have already collapsed under silent stress. Your urine looks normal, your energy feels normal, and that normal feeling is the trap itself. Beneath that calm surface, a biological storm has been building for years without your knowledge. Inside each kidney, nearly 1 million nephrons work endlessly, filtering blood without asking for credit. These nephrons are your true life insurance, a gift written into your biology since birth. Stanford researchers call this hidden capacity your renal reserve, a fragile savings account to filters. Every sugary breakfast, sleepless night, or ignored inflammation quietly withdraws money from that same account. The cruelest part is you never feel those withdrawals until the account is almost empty. A tiny rise in creatinine, often dismissed by doctors, can mean half your reserve is gone. Kidney disease behaves like a thief that steals in total silence and returns absolutely nothing. And yet, inside that silence, your kidneys still hold an astonishing hidden power to heal. NIH scientists discovered renal cells can regenerate themselves if given real periods of metabolic rest. But here comes the twist that surprises almost everyone the very first time they hear it. Repair does not begin with pills, powders, or expensive detox drinks sold on social media. It begins with something shockingly simple: giving your digestion permission to finally stop and rest. Fasting shifts your entire body from non-stop processing toward deliberate cellular maintenance in quiet renewal. This shift lowers insulin, reduces sodium retention, and drops pressure inside your kidneys almost instantly. You will not feel these corrections happening, but your nephrons feel immediate and undeniable relief. So one question remains, one modern medicine once claimed was impossible to properly answer at all. If kidney damage truly cannot reverse, why do fasting studies keep showing improved filtration markers? Could simple rest awaken regenerative pathways that years of constant eating never allowed to surface? And more importantly, exactly how long must you fast before those pathways finally switch on? Most people believe kidney damage starts only when filtration numbers begin visibly dropping on paper, but the real story starts much earlier, hidden quietly beneath years of seemingly harmless daily habits. Your nephrons endure a slow suffocation called hyperfiltration, caused directly by modern non-stop eating patterns. Harvard Medical School describes hyperfiltration as hydraulic pressure that overstretches your delicate glomeruli every single day. Picture inflating a balloon again and again until the rubber thins and finally loses its strength. That is exactly what happens inside your kidneys when meals keep arriving without any real pause. Every bite of protein and sugar forces your nephrons to push far harder than they should. Protein raises internal pressure, while sugar spikes insulin, forcing your body to aggressively hold on to sodium. Insulin is essential for survival, yet becomes a hidden enemy when constantly elevated by modern diets. Mayo Clinic researchers found that high insulin actually stiffens blood vessels surrounding your filtration membranes directly. That stiffness traps pressure inside the glomeruli, turning gentle filtration into constant mechanical strain instead. And sustained strain becomes the earliest blueprint for irreversible kidney decline that nobody warns you about.
But here is the twist almost nobody realizes until it becomes far too late to fix. Your kidneys cannot complain because evolution silenced their warning system to protect your ancient survival instincts. Pain would have only stopped early humans from hunting food during long stretches of real scarcity. So instead of warning you, your kidneys silently absorb every shock, spike, and pressure drop endured. Meanwhile, another villain quietly thickens the filtration barrier beneath all that invisible biochemical noise happening daily. This villain is called AGEs, Advanced Glycation End Products, formed when sugar permanently binds to proteins. NIH investigators describe AGEs as biological rust that sticks stubbornly to kidney membranes like hardened glue. Once AGEs accumulate, the tiny pores inside your filter narrow, forcing nephrons to work even harder. It becomes a vicious cycle where overwork creates inflammation, and that inflammation accelerates biological aging further. Yet the most alarming part is how completely ordinary these daily triggers actually are for everyone. A sweet breakfast, a heavy protein lunch, an evening snack, each quietly adds another layer of stress. This is exactly why kidney decline hides behind decades of choices that felt harmless at the time. But fasting interrupts this entire cycle by removing the constant signals demanding non-stop filtration from nephrons. Insulin drops, pressure falls, and your nephrons finally escape a hydraulic squeeze that was draining resilience. You might assume this relief takes days to appear, yet studies show improvement beginning within mere hours. This pause does far more than simply reduce pressure inside your delicate and overworked filtration system. It quietly prepares your kidneys for something deeper, a true and measurable phase of cellular repair. Because the moment insulin falls, another biological switch flips, completely changing your body's metabolic priorities instantly. That pivotal switch opens the very first doorway toward genuine kidney self-repair at a cellular level. By the 12-hour mark, something subtle but genuinely revolutionary begins unfolding deep within your kidneys. Insulin levels, once kept high by constant eating, finally drop low enough to release sodium freely. This drop is not a minor shift, it is a powerful signal that pressure can finally ease. Harvard physiology texts describe this exact moment as your kidney's first real breath after years of overwork. As sodium escapes your body, water follows closely, reducing the hydraulic load, stretching your glomeruli thin. You might notice slightly increased urination, but inside, your nephrons feel relief unseen in many decades. This relief marks the earliest form of protection, the very first step toward preventing structural damage. Yet pressure is only half the story, because another silent threat has been suffocating your kidneys too. Few people realize that fat can actually infiltrate the kidney itself, compressing it from the outside inward. Researchers call this fatty kidney, a condition similar to fatty liver but rarely discussed openly at all. Fat accumulates inside the renal sinus, the central cavity supporting blood vessels that feed the organ. As this fat expands, it squeezes the arteries, quietly reducing blood flow to entire clusters of nephrons. Reduced blood flow creates microischemia, tiny pockets of oxygen starvation that quietly accelerate biological aging.
But fasting changes this entire trajectory far earlier than most people would ever honestly expect it to. Around 16 to 18 hours, glycogen stores diminish and true metabolic flexibility finally begins to awaken. This shift activates AMPK, the enzyme Harvard biochemists describe as the master switch of energy regulation. AMPK senses low energy and responds by directing your body to burn visceral fat with real efficiency. Visceral fat, unlike fat under your skin, sits around organs and quietly fuels inflammatory damage over time. Kidney sinus fat falls directly into that dangerous category, making it an early target during any fast. As AMPK rises, mitochondrial activity adjusts, allowing these deep fat reserves to finally be mobilized as fuel. This process creates physical space again, releasing the mechanical compression that was affecting nephron function directly. You might not feel this change immediately, but your kidneys experience a real loosening of internal confinement. Lower pressure, improved blood flow, and reduced fat compression together create a fragile but vital equilibrium. This equilibrium becomes the exact foundation required for any deeper biological repair to occur later on. And interestingly, these benefits are never limited to your kidneys alone during this important early window. Liver inflammation decreases, pancreatic stress lessens, and vascular resistance subtly improves across your entire metabolic system. Your whole body interprets fasting as a long-awaited chance to recalibrate its deepest cellular priorities completely. For the first time in years, your kidneys stop pushing against the current and finally flow with it. This shift marks the true end of survival mode
and the honest beginning of internal restoration work. The 12 to 24-hour window looks calm outside, but inside it is genuinely transformative work. Every nephron feels the difference as pressure falls, fat recedes, and oxygen finally returns to starving tissue. And with these conditions restored, your kidneys prepare quietly for a much deeper biological awakening ahead. By the 24th hour, your kidneys enter biological territory rarely reached anywhere inside modern daily life. Insulin has stayed low long enough for mTOR, the cellular growth switch, to finally power down completely. Once mTOR quiets down, a deeper intelligence awakens silently inside your cells, one called pure autophagy. Autophagy, discovered by Nobel laureate Yoshinori Ohsumi, acts as your body's own internal recycling system entirely. Instead of relying on new nutrients, your cells begin digesting their own damaged components for pure survival. Inside kidney tubule cells, this process holds extraordinary significance because these particular cells burn immense daily energy. Second only to the heart, renal tubules contain dense mitochondria working constantly to reclaim vital lost minerals. Years of metabolic stress leave behind defective proteins and swollen organelles that clog delicate cellular machinery. Autophagy identifies these dysfunctional pieces and breaks them down completely, restoring efficiency from the inside out. This is not destruction at all, but true renovation, a microscopic house cleaning long overdue in adults. As old cellular debris disappears, energy production becomes smoother and oxidative stress quietly declines within your tissue.
Yet autophagy is only half of the transformation quietly unfolding during this powerful biological window right now. The other half is mitophagy, a specialized process that specifically targets and removes damaged mitochondria inside cells. Damaged mitochondria leak reactive oxygen species, silent sparks that relentlessly inflame delicate kidney tissue over time. When fasting deepens further, these faulty mitochondria are dismantled and replaced with younger, far more efficient versions. This renewal is largely orchestrated through PGC1 alpha, a master regulator of mitochondrial biogenesis itself. Stanford metabolic studies show activating this pathway restores real energy balance inside chronically stressed renal tissue. Your kidneys, once suffocating under metabolic strain, now begin to genuinely breathe through rejuvenated cellular power plants. This energy shift also creates a strange paradox that quietly confuses many people during deeper stages of fasting. Creatinine may rise slightly, not because your kidneys are worsening, but because your blood becomes more concentrated. Minor muscle breakdown contributes a small amount, yet your actual filtration capacity remains stable or even improves. Nephrologists emphasize this temporary rise as a completely known fasting response, rather than any sign of injury. Meanwhile, ketone bodies rise steadily, providing cleaner fuel that produces far fewer inflammatory byproducts inside your body. Ketones cross the blood-brain barrier, sharpening your cognition while reducing systemic oxidative stress throughout the body. This reduction benefits your kidneys directly by decreasing the total inflammatory load carried through daily circulation. Within this shifting metabolic landscape, your body begins prioritizing repair over digestion for the very first time. Every tubular cell senses this shift and reallocates its energy toward restoring structure and lost function. Ion pumps work more efficiently, membrane integrity strengthens, and microscopic cellular leaks begin to quietly decline. Even the interstitial spaces surrounding nephrons experience reduced swelling and noticeably improved oxygen delivery throughout tissue. What began as a simple break from food has now evolved into a coordinated cellular restoration program. Inside you, the kidneys transition from constant crisis management into thoughtful, deliberate structural replenishment at every level. This 24 to 48-hour window represents the very first true revival of renal resilience. Something remarkable happens once you cross the 2-day threshold, a shift that feels almost evolutionary.
your body stops behaving like an organism avoiding stress and starts acting like one preparing for rebirth. At this turning point, your kidneys experience biological support they rarely receive anywhere inside normal adult life. Metabolic urgency dissolves completely, and regenerative intelligence finally starts taking the lead inside your entire body. Deep in your bone marrow, a signal echoes through stem cell niches, urging them to fully awaken. USC research from Dr. Walter Longo demonstrates that extended fasting genuinely initiates this remarkable activation process. During fasting, immune cells decline modestly, creating intentional space for real renewal to eventually take place. When eating resumes, stem cells surge forward, rebuilding your immune system completely from its foundation upward.
This renewal matters profoundly for kidneys because inflammation remains their single most persistent and dangerous enemy. Inflammatory molecules quietly whisper damage into your glomeruli long before any blood test detects a problem. But ketosis rises now, and with it arrives beta-hydroxybutyrate, a surprisingly powerful biological guardian molecule. This ketone directly inhibits the NLRP3 inflammasome, the molecular amplifier behind widespread systemic inflammation everywhere. Mayo Clinic studies reveal calming this inflammasome slows the fibrosis that permanently scars delicate kidney tissue. With inflammation falling steadily, renal tubules finally enter a rare and precious moment of biological safety. In this safety, stem cell signals migrate toward areas once hindered by chronic oxygen deprivation for years. Damaged tubular cells are gradually replaced with healthier versions, slowly restoring their delicate original architecture. Blood flow throughout the kidney cortex improves as vascular stiffness softens under this new fasting physiology. More oxygen arrives, more nutrients circulate, and more repair can occur where deterioration once fully dominated. Even immune cells living between nephron pathways start shifting from pure attack mode into restoration mode. This shift protects your nephrons from the low-grade daily damage that quietly compounds over many decades. Meanwhile, hormonal pathways begin adjusting toward long-term longevity rather than short-term emergency survival mode. Insulin-like growth factor 1 declines, allowing FOXO transcription factors to strengthen your DNA repair defenses. These defenses help kidney cells withstand future oxidative stress with far greater clarity and biological precision. What emerges is not just recovery, but true recalibration, a kidney rediscovering its efficient, younger rhythm. Filtration stabilizes, structural fatigue decreases, and mitochondrial performance keeps steadily climbing throughout this entire window. Even mild protein leakage can show real signs of improvement as inflammation continues receding further and further. Beyond 48 hours, fasting stops being a metabolic challenge and becomes a genuine regenerative opportunity instead. Your kidneys respond to this window with quiet gratitude, repairing, reorganizing, and releasing long-held stress. This phase imprints a biological memory of resilience, one that continues influencing recovery long after eating resumes. You are no longer simply witnessing maintenance, you are witnessing the actual architecture of renewal take shape. If you have followed this journey this far, one question has probably been lingering quietly in your mind. How long must you actually fast before your kidneys begin truly repairing themselves instead of merely coping? The answer is neither vague nor mythical. It is grounded firmly in measurable physiology studied for decades. Kidney self-repair does not require extreme fasting, nor does it demand pushing your limits dangerously far. The first measurable shift begins around the 12 to 16-hour window when insulin drops noticeably. This reduction in pressure acts as the earliest protective mechanism ensuring long-term nephron survival overall. Real repair, however, emerges far more clearly between the 24 and 48-hour window. This is when autophagy activates inside tubular cells, clearing damaged proteins that once clogged their function. It is also when mitophagy begins rebuilding the very mitochondria that power your entire renal filtration system. For most adults, this window marks the true and measurable beginning of kidney self-repair at a cellular level. And after 48 hours, deeper regeneration pathways awaken, particularly those guided by stem cell signaling. But here's the unexpected twist. You do not need to reach 48 hours every single time. Even shorter fasts, repeated consistently over weeks, create the same internal conditions needed for cumulative recovery. Now, the real question becomes deeply personal. Where does your own body seem to respond the strongest? Have you ever noticed more clarity, lighter urine, or reduced bloating after completing a longer fast yourself? But understanding this timeline alone is never enough, because safety ultimately defines whether these benefits actually last. The biggest risk arrives not during fasting itself, but during the exact moment you choose to eat again. This risk is called refeeding syndrome, a sudden electrolyte shift triggered when carbohydrates return far too quickly. Harvard clinical literature warns this shift can destabilize heart rhythm and dangerously overwhelm recovering kidney tissue quickly. So how exactly do you protect the healing you worked so incredibly hard to finally achieve here? You reintroduce food gently, beginning with broth, soft vegetables, and modest protein before touching any carbohydrates. You hydrate with real intention, never guesswork, because your kidneys depend on steady fluid balance, always. You support your minerals, especially sodium, potassium, and magnesium, which fasting temporarily redistributes throughout your body. And most importantly, you treat fasting as a cycle of stress and recovery, never as pure punishment. Your kidneys flourish not when you fast the longest, but when you fast wisely and refeed with respect. So if you take one single message away from everything shared here today, let it simply be this: repair begins earlier than you ever thought possible, but it only lasts when it is done wisely.